Hello, and welcome to Romance Writers Therapy. This is Marty V, and today I am joined by Courtney Clark Micheals. Courtney is an award-winning author with a passion for writing strong, independent heroines and sexy, smart men that is equaled only to her passion for travel, online shopping, and petting other people's dogs. With a degree in English and criminology, Courtney writes contemporary romance from the heart of New Zealand's winemaking region. Hi, Courtney!
Hi, Marty.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm great. Just kind of getting edits done on Truth or Dare. What's going on in your writing world?
Ooh, I am working on the first book of my new series, the Hot Auckland Nights series. It's called Game Changer. And it's got a little crossover to my current Pacific Passion series for those who've read it. So I'm really enjoying that. It's a sports romance series. And it's a Friends to Lovers, which I am super excited about. It's my first Friends to Lovers.
Oh, really?
It is. Yeah.
What made you decide to write a Friends to Lovers this time?
I love them so much.
Like the books, like the trope?
Friends to Lovers stories because there's so much shared history and respect and love for one another already in existence, that being able to delve into that and sort of watch it transition into a different kind of attraction and beast is really exciting to me. Which is ironic because when I do see former Friends to Lovers out in the wild, I usually end up hiding behind like a parked car or something while they pass. One of those things where fiction is better than truth.
Well, my husband and I are Friends to Lovers.
Are you? Oh,
yeah, we are.
I love those stories so much.
Yeah.
My husband and I are opposites attract, so.
Oh, yeah, we're a bit of that too. And Grumpy Sunshine.
Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you the grumpy or the sunshine?
It's hard because I'm an extrovert.
Okay.
But I'm an extrovert with a lot of passionate opinions. And he is an introvert who's a lot nicer to everyone than I am. So
okay.
We sort of both hit different parts of that equation.
I am definitely the sunshine to his grumpy. And I have a lot of opinions, but I'm very particular about how they're communicated, right? And I tend to be very if it's not something that's actually important, then I tend to be very that's okay. We don't have to agree on this, and just no big deal. Where Andrew tends to be very impassioned about everything. So
yeah, we have some big ones that we just do not see eye to eye on, like some biblical stuff that we disagree on, but somehow we've made it work. And then we get that one thing where we're both yelling at each other in our passion, and we agree. But we're so passionate about getting our opinion across that we're just sort of raising our voices as we go to make ourselves heard on the same sort of strain of ideas.
So, but you guys are in agreement, but you're still arguing?
Not arguing, we're just yelling at each other because our points are so important that we must express them, both of us, simultaneously. That
is so relatable to me. Andrew and I being on the same page and me being and then this is why they're wrong.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, that's right.
And the kids are why are mommy and daddy yelling?
Oh my gosh. One of my favorite things is when Andrew and I just get obnoxiously competitive about stupid stuff, right?
Oh,
and
the Google search it. That's what, that's where it comes to with us. Yes. I'm oh, do you think I'm wrong? Why don't you Google it?
Or even stuff like Monkey in the Middle. We're just playing Monkey in the Middle with our kids. And now we're really getting competitive about it.
I'm okay losing in a physical aspect. My husband is super competitive, and he's also like, he has a very athletic past, but so is my little sister. So growing up, like, someone had to lose, you know, and you didn't want it to be her because she'd make your lives miserable. So I've adjusted to losing in when it comes to like physical competitions. But if it's anything to do with sort of like ideas or theories or like just facts, no, I will not accept anything less than perfection from myself.
Yeah, I'm pretty competitive all over the place. So I would love to say that like I've gotten better as I've grown up, but I still really like to win. So
sometimes as you grow up, you really just settle into it more.
I know. And you just find a better way to like prove that you're right.
Yeah. More strategy around it.
Right? So you're here so we can chat about toxic masculinity and how romance addresses this issue. And I'm so excited about it.
I'm so excited. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
I really like the sort of lineup of books that we've got as well. We've got we've got all kinds. We've got traditionally published. We've got independent published. We've got a range of cultures. It's going to be awesome.
It is. So do you want to start with kind of like one of the books that you brought in, and we can just kind of like delve into how that book like addresses the issue?
Yeah, sure. So I brought 3 books to the table today. The first one is the Undercover Bromance Book Club by Alyssa K. Adams.
I love them. Yeah, I love that premise so much.
The premise is just top tier. I adore it.
The premise alone. Oh, I'm so sorry.
The premise alone is enough, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Just like, to have that conversation around it.
Yes. That like romance as a genre has value, and that men should read it to be more understanding. Like, yeah,
just that it's a genre for everyone. So often it gets pigeonholed as a genre for females, but it really has something to offer everyone. Romance does the same way that literally any other genre does. The second one that I'm bringing to the table is Rafe by Rebecca Weatherspoon. And the third one is Something Borrowed by Eve Dangerfield, who's an Australian author.
That is the one I haven't read.
You should. So you can read it when we're finished.
Okay, perfect. So do you want to kind of like geek out about bromance for a little bit?
Yeah, let's do that first.
Awesome. Okay. So for a listener who doesn't know, the Undercover Bromance series is about a group of like powerful men, right? They're athletes for the most part and stuff like that.
Athletes and celebrities for the most part, yeah.
Yeah. Entrepreneur in the Nashville area, am I right?
Yep.
I can't remember right now. But they call romance novels their manuals. And they read them to have a better understanding of their own relationships and to be more empathetic towards other people.
Yeah, the real premise of the group itself is actually them unpacking the concept
toxic
of masculinity.
Yeah.
And addressing the ways in which that concept has hindered them in the past, in the way that it's raised them. And so the first book in the series, which is Undercover Bromance Book Club, the very first chapter is a baseball player, Gavin, whose wife has just kicked him out. So they're divorcing. He's been told to leave. And he's introduced to this group when his friends come to him and say, hey, look, you know, you're obviously having a terrible time with this. We want to help you. This is how we can help you get your wife back, is by using these tools at our disposal, romance novels, to learn better what it is that women want and how you can be a better partner and how you can learn to expect a really healthy relationship in return for yourself.
Well, and one of the things that it did, like right off the bat, like you have a group of men coming to be emotionally available to their friend. And yes. I really love that.
Yeah, that's one of my very favorite things about the series is that so much of what takes ideas around traditional masculinity into the area of toxic masculinity is the inability of men to call it out when they see it. The only people who don't think we live in a patriarchal system are white men. I mean, and that's because it benefits them and they're not in a position where they're comfortable reducing their own power in order to even the playing field for everyone. And so just the very fact of these books where they're not just addressing the toxic behaviors of men they don't like or men who perform actions or deeds in a way that is challenging towards women and everything like that, but they actually call out their friends. And I think that's the biggest thing about it is that it's all very well and good to like say be a man and whatever that entails, but if you're not calling out poor behavior in your peers and in your friends, then that's when we go from hegemonic masculinity to toxic masculinity.
Yes. The whole like idea of well, he's a good guy. You just have to get to know him. Like, well, let's stop excusing him.
Yeah. Well, like, I think he probably actually just meant this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so the upfront conversation of like we're all dealing with this like bullshit and we're going to tell you when you're being full of bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
And I also loved because in that first, reader, listener, there might be like spoilers to come. Ooh, like, yes. I feel like it's right up front in this book.
Yeah.
But they, one of the issues that the couple is dealing with, Gavin and his wife, is that she has been faking having an orgasm with him the entire time they've been together.
That's a hit to the ego there.
What was that?
That's a hit to the ego there.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I think also like toxic masculinity being attached to sexual prowess is really wonderfully addressed in this series.
Absolutely.
Because not only did it affect his ability to realize that she's been faking it, but it affected her ability to be honest with him.
Yeah.
And tell her what she needed.
She didn't want to emasculate him by critiquing his sexual behaviors. Which, I mean, that's the thing. If someone's not having a good time, no one's having a good time, you know?
And, I mean, instead of... When he found out, it was a hit to his ego. But, like, instead of being like, oh my God, like, how do I fix this for you? He got pissed and left. Like, yeah. Like, he
got pissed, like, angry, and then he got pissed, like, drunk. Very heavily drunk. So it was like a pissed squared situation.
It was a pissed squared. It was like double pissed.
Yeah. So. The multiverse of pissed. Which, in fairness, I think is probably an understandable reaction. You know, on it, like, if I think about, like, how I would receive that shocking news, it would definitely hurt. But also, as someone who isn't, you know, carrying around the baggage of toxic masculinity in the same aspect, because women have to unpack toxic masculinity as well. Like it's like the patriarchy. It's in all of us. We got to figure it out, and we did it. But my response would be,
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry you didn't feel like you could talk to me about this, you know? And that is just definitely not where he comes from.
No,
like,
I think I would have that response. I think I would have your response. I would share that, but after I'd calmed down. I think initially I'd be mad. And part of it would be mad that they couldn't communicate with me.
Yeah.
And part of it would feel like I'd just been lied to for years. So I would need to calm down first.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that really, like you said, we connect ideas around masculinity with sexual prowess. And that's something that it happens all throughout our genre, certainly. And other genres as well. When you look at pornography, when you look even at teen films, we see entire plot lines of teen films, which is where a lot of these ideas are sort of formulated and
absolutely
and sort of doubled down on, where the entire plot line for male protagonists is to achieve some kind of sexual conquest. Whereas when you look at the same genre when it's targeted towards female audience members, it's more about finding love. And so I can see why that sort of crossroads of understanding about love and sexual relationships has come out in this way in the book, because different people are raised and socialized to expect different things in their relationships, and when we don't talk about that, it's normalized.
Well, and also, like, on the flip side, she was raised, the character in the book, she was raised to expect sexual pleasure to be more in a man's realm, right? Like, yeah, that is something that we've all dealt with, and I think that's the biggest threat that romance gives to toxic masculinity, is that it represents female pleasure and women being empowered to have sexual pleasure. And that was just one of the things in this book that I thought it really accomplished very well.
I agree. It's a very, I think, useful text in unpacking a lot of how people are raised in a Western society regardless of gender. And how you can address that in your own life and think about, okay, well, where are some areas that I could be improving personally, and where are some areas that I could be expecting improvement from others.
Do you mind if we switch to The Trouble with Hating You?
No, I would love to switch to The Trouble with Hating You, which I
feel like this is, I feel like this is the flip side of that conversation.
Yeah.
Right? So The Trouble with Hating You by Sanji Patel, right? I said her name correctly?
Yeah. As far as I know.
Okay. So in this story we have the heroine has this terrible reputation within her community. Yeah. And as being promiscuous, even though, she's just, anyway, it was a whole thing. I will not do the reveal there, but there is like a lot of talk about her value being less than, because just anyone can have sex with her.
Yeah. Despite the fact that not everyone is having sex with her.
Absolutely. Yeah. Despite the fact that there is no evidence to that thought. No. That's what the community would rather believe.
Yeah, it's a really interesting case study in how reputations can be damaged by word rather than by deed.
Yes. And how people want to kind of believe the worst in what they hear of people. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so she's kind of a cautionary tale and like this and that. One of my favorite scenes from this book was when the hero is playing like just, fun basketball with his friends.
Oh my God, it's my favorite scene too. I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Okay, you say it.
Oh, no, you say it because you started it.
Okay. Okay. So they're playing basketball. And is it his brother that's getting married?
Yeah.
And she's a bridesmaid? Okay. And so like the groomsmen are just playing basketball, having fun. And the bridesmaids need that space to like practice,
their performance for the wedding.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the guys there starts talking crap about her reputation. And our hero comes right to her defense. Like, this is before they're friends at all. But
yeah, they do not like each other whatsoever in the beginning of the book.
And he is just defending, like, a woman's right to, like, not have her sexuality spoken about, to not be judged on these things, especially since we do not judge men to the same degree.
And he says that. He says that to his friends. He's like, well, you've had sex outside of marriage, He's like, I've had sex outside of marriage. Why is it a problem for her when it's not a problem for us?
I love it.
I love it too. Like, he's actively challenging them to their faces. He doesn't need to. And it would be easier for him as someone sort of quite new, I think, to town or to the community, to be quiet. And that's what makes him a hero. It's when the right thing to do is the hard thing and we see them do it anyway.
And then I also love that he did not get credit for that behavior.
Oh,
right?
No.
The heroine didn't like overhear him and be like, thank you for coming to my defense. Like, no. He did the right thing.
Yeah.
Because it was the right thing to do. And then he's not like given any special treatment for doing the right thing. He just did it because it was right. And that is another thing that book does so well.
Yeah, just the expectation that you should do the right thing. And especially when it comes to something that's so blatantly unfair.
Yeah.
As that idea around a person's worth based on their sexual history or their sexual experience.
I love it.
I loved it too. And I thought that book and the way it handles situations which are very familiar to women. Not only the circumstances, but the reactions from the community and from society in general. And I really liked his responses to those. I thought it was really powerful, and it was the kind of strength and good heart and boldness of character that we do love to see in our romance heroes. And in the past, sometimes we've created a rod almost for our own back, in that we've been so busy making alpha heroes that we've let some toxic masculinity slip into the romance genre.
Absolutely.
Over the last sort of 40 years, and before that it was even worse. Product of the times and all that.
Well, but that's what I was saying with how we all have our own toxic masculinity to weed out of ourselves. Like, we have to unpack these things. And so I think that it's really powerful to say, I did not have the right mindset there. I did not handle that correctly. And this is how I'm going to proceed.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a huge difference in people and also in the characters in our stories. There's a huge difference between sort of being alpha or having that sort of leadership role and actually being toxic. One doesn't necessarily equate with the other.
Yeah.
And sometimes in the romance genre we do see that. But I think we're seeing a lot less of it now, and a lot more exploration of how we can write alpha characters, we can write masculine characters, and we can write men in a way that doesn't hurt women.
Well, and I really loved your distinction between toxic masculinity and traditional masculinity. And that there's nothing wrong with masculinity.
No, it is what it is. It's like, it's like anything, you know. And one of the easiest comparisons to draw is probably pornography. Like, porn is not inherently good or bad. It just is. It's the way in which society interprets it and uses it that makes it either really positive and healthy or quite dangerous and unsafe. But it is what it is, you know? There's no distinct value on it. Well, I mean, I live in New Zealand. You're in the States. There's probably heaps of values around it there.
There's probably hopes of what?
There's probably heaps of values and judgments and stuff on it there.
Oh yeah. I live in the Bible Belt too. So like, don't worry, there's lots of judgment on it. So
I'm like the exact opposite in that I'm a high school teacher at a boys' school. And so starting about, 15, 16, which in fairness is too late, we're talking in class about pornography. We're not watching it. I want to be really clear about that. But we're talking about how engaging with it, how you need to be a critical viewer of all your media texts, because when you're not thinking critically about them, that's when they can actually start influencing you in a way that might not be positive.
I absolutely love that is a part of the conversation around, what I assume is sex ed and like educating yourself about how you receive information. If I were to suggest to like even a progressive school around here that be part of the conversation for like my children, it would not go over well.
I can imagine.
It would be
I'm
so
very
rough.
lucky in that I'm the only teacher in my subject area, and so in the school works on a high trust model. So like until there is a formal parent complaint, no one knows what I'm doing and no one cares.
That is a whole different existence.
Culture.
I know. Well, you and I were talking beforehand, and like I have totally Googled like immigrating to New Zealand.
10 out of 10 recommend.
Oh my gosh.
Like, and that's not to say we don't have our problems. That's not to say we don't have our
No, of
problems.
course, of course.
But I do like some of the freedoms that come
which is hilarious because that's the reason we don't get legislation all over the place is because of quote unquote freedoms. But anyway. Gosh.
I do like the fact that my job is not at risk of some sort of unhinged moral panic in the community. That's beneficial for me from a financial standpoint. I like to be employed.
Okay. I have a friend who teaches public middle school, and she teaches English. And
more power to her.
What was that?
I said more power to her.
Oh my gosh, woman is brilliant. But she got pushed back this year because required reading was The Giver. So if that doesn't what was that?
I haven't read that. It looks depressing.
It is depressing.
Yeah.
It is very depressing. But like, I mean, it's not salacious. I don't know. Like, it's definitely not more depressing, I don't think, than like Of Mice and Men. But it does have a lot of themes about, critical thinking and stuff like that. And I think that's what offended them. I don't know if they could have put a finger on that, but that's what I think was the problem.
Yeah, I was teaching in a girls' school, actually, before I was in a boys' school, and I went to teach the film Pride, which is based on a true story. It's historically accurate. It's about gays and lesbians in London and their work supporting Welsh coal miners during the mining strike in the 80s. So I had to send a letter home to all parents telling them that I was teaching this film, that, it has a M rating. I don't know what that is in American terms.
Mature?
Yep.
So it'd probably be like an R here. Yeah.
Nope, under an R, not restricted.
Oh, okay. So it's just a PG, like a PG-13 or something.
Yeah, we have M, which is between PG and restricted. It would probably be about PG-13 for you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I had to send that through. So the other teachers in the same year group were teaching Shawshank. So just as my argument went, so Shawshank has suicide. It has rape. It has gay rape. There's obviously violence. And there are no female characters in it whatsoever where you see the faces. Nothing. The only females in it are two posters. I think you see his wife's feet at one point, very early in. So teaching that at a girls' school is like, what?
Yeah.
Why? They were teaching Atonement, again, which has a rape-driven plot, and 12 Years a Slave were the other films being taught at that year level, and none of them had to send letters home. None of them. Even though New Zealand has the Western world's highest rate of youth suicide and a 1 in 3 sexual assault statistic.
Oh my gosh.
And I had something that had like a peck on the lips between two gay characters. And there were parents in the class who chose to have their children independently study Shawshank instead.
What? Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's just... God. And I think that's... Again, it's thinking critically about the text that you're engaging with. And that's why romance has such an essential role in representing the world as it should be, as sort of aspirational in all facets of life, rather than just romantic relationships, because it's the biggest selling genre in the market, and if we're not using it in order to explore these ideas and challenge how we think and why we think it, then what are we even doing? Yeah. I mean, apart from giving people happy endings, also very important.
Very important. Okay. Yeah. I just recently read and like gathered, happy endings are important to me for sure, but like I read Rebel by Beverly Jenkins recently. And if you haven't read it, you totally should. That is another one. That's a great example of breaking down toxic masculinity. Holy smokes, you need to read that one. So it takes place in New Orleans during like I can't remember exactly how many years post the abolition of slavery, right? And these two characters getting their happily ever after, I cried in my kitchen. Oh, like it meant so much to me. I'm sorry, I'm gonna cry right now.
It's like none of us read this genre and none of us write this genre because we're ambivalent about happy endings. We all believe that everyone should have happy endings in their own life, and that's what we try and emulate in our books.
And they're a Black couple, and they've had so much discrimination on page, and like not in like a like trauma porn sort of way. Like it's beautifully handled, and very informative. But they have so much against them on page, and if they were real people, their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, to this day, still have so much to fight against. Those two people finding love, I mean, that's beautiful. That is fucking beautiful, and it gives me hope. And yeah, like you said, we're not ambivalent at all to what it means to have a happily ever after.
And one of the books that I think on our list that handled that kind of social element really well was Teach Me, because there's an entire scene in there where the male teacher
I'm like, it's the first quarter, but you can say it. You can say it.
Quarter? Okay.
I am the slowest reader on earth, Courtney.
I'm sorry.
Nothing. Sorry. And I have it as a physical. I have it as a physical book, so every time I open it, like, I have children that are instantly like right there, trying to get my business. But my daughter and I will read, like, I'll read books, sing songs to her, and then we read in bed silently together until she falls asleep. It makes me so happy. So that's what I've been reading with her. Not with her. Yeah. I read while she reads, sort of thing. But okay, if you want to, what is this scene?
So there's a scene where the main character, I totally blanked on her name now. Can you remember it? Rose. It's Rose. There we go.
Rose, yes.
Where Rose has
Martin.
to observe...
Martin. Okay.
Yeah. Where Rose has to observe Martin, who's another teacher who's recently been hired in her school. She has to observe him teaching in class, which is a really normal practice for teachers.
Which is world history that he's teaching. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he uses the opportunity, not necessarily the opportunity of her observing, but the opportunity of the part of history they're learning about, to really highlight women's erasure.
Yes.
And it's at a co-ed school. So I think that's really important, because it's challenging the status quo of the male students who've become accustomed to a lot of history being focused on their efforts. And it's highlighting for females in the class the fact that actually, erasure happens. If you're not careful, and if you're not paying attention, girls can be tricked just as easily as boys into thinking that their work in progress was less than. And I thought that was a really beautiful way to get the reader to learn more about Martin himself and the way he sees women and views them in keeping with his experiences and his personality and everything like that, but without preaching or without even speaking directly or engaging directly with the female protagonist. And it comes back to that idea that it's like, are you doing the right thing even when there's maybe nothing in it for you?
Yeah. Well, and then also, like, that message coming from a man.
Yes.
Is powerful for both the boys and the girls to receive.
Yes, absolutely.
And then also, like, him saying that erasure happens, and, like, now the boys have to, like, look in on themselves and check, like, would I allow that to happen? Would I do that? And it's just, I thought that scene was fantastic.
It was really, so really good. Do you want to pick a book now?
My last book I have is Desperate Measures by Katie Roberts.
Love, love, love Katie Roberts.
Yes. She does not do anything without intention, and that is something I respect so much about her. She was, I can't remember where I heard her say this. I want to say it was like TikTok or something. But someone, like, demeaned her book as, like, just being porn. And she's like, you obviously weren't paying attention. Yeah. I make a lot of statements in that book. I cannot believe you missed all of them.
And it's incredible because she does she does interlink it so well with with the spicy scenes.
One of my favorite things she does.
What a talent.
One of my favorite things she does is she doesn't let white be the standard.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So when she is describing, you know, a clerk, she talks about that person being a white guy.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't set like, oh, I didn't mention skin color, assume white. It's, I'm going to tell you everyone because that's obnoxious. Like white as a standard is obnoxious sort of thing. So
Absolutely.
that is one of my favorite things she does.
Used to seeing in books
Absolutely.
by
And we accept
people of color. So we're used to seeing that clarification there, but it's not something that a lot of white authors are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think definitely in the last couple of years, huge strides.
Yes.
And she's really consistent about that across her, particularly her later series with Wicked Villains onwards.
Yeah. Well, and then even just like, because I recently came across a book that should have had a TW and it didn't.
Ooh.
And like, I was fine, but I was definitely like, did I miss a TW somewhere?
There
was no notes. No, not hers. Not hers. Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. I recently came across a different author that should have done this. Katie Roberts would never.
So, yeah. It's really funny too, though, because like when we talk about TWs, we're assuming the author's responsibility in that. But the biggest ones that surprise me, the biggest ones where they come out of nowhere, are in trad. They're in traditional publishing because the author doesn't necessarily have that level of control. And I've got to... I've found books that have personally been like very triggering to me, like not able to finish them because it deals with some circumstances, and they are almost exclusively traditionally published. When I have a independent author or a hybrid author publishing independently, and they've been able to pop that in there, like at least I'm prepared for it, and I can, you know, decide whether or not I'm in the headspace for that. But yeah, it's good to see that in the same way that it's good to see that level of representation on page, specified on page. Because I write interracial as well, interracial romances, and it's like, you know, some people aren't going to read them, but that's their choice. Like, it's important that people who are reading them aren't reading my characters as just white with a few like exotic sounding phrases and a nice tattoo.
Well, and because I believe that I want my books to represent the world I live in, and the world I live in is not just white, you know. And so if that means somebody's not going to read me, like, that's okay. We're not for each other. Like, that's fine.
Keep your racist money.
What was that?
I said, keep your racist money. And then exactly. Again.
Yeah, exactly. Keep your racist money.
In a public forum. So if you don't want to know where I stand, it's there. And
it's there.
A few bucks if you agree, because I am going to be poor after that.
So true. Oh no, that's so disappointing. But okay, so Katie Roberts, Desperate Measures. One of my favorite things that she does, listener, definitely going to have spoilers here, because my favorite moment that she breaks down toxic masculinity in this book is the climax.
Oh, yeah.
So,
same.
Same, yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, we have Jasmine, who has not been treated well by her dad and was going to get married off to Aladdin, who was not going to treat her well, just so that power could be gained.
Yeah. And
Jafar takes her away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she ends up back in Aladdin's grasp, and Jafar is coming to save her. He's coming to save her. But no, bitch. Jasmine had it the whole time. She didn't need anyone to save her. Like, she had this. So she takes down the villain, establishes herself as the heir to her father's enterprise. And she is in the position of dominance. Like, she is in the position of power. And I have chills. Like, I loved how that whole story really, because there's the daddy aspect of Jafar and like sub and dynamic between them as like in the bedroom, but that doesn't make her not the most powerful character. Like, absolutely, all of those things,
the imagery in that scene, when you're reading it and you can like picture it so clear. Oh my god!
Oh my gosh! It is so vivid,
and I love it. Good. And I love that that's the climax, because when we're talking about toxic masculinity, obviously that's something that Jasmine has paid the price for under her father, and there are certainly moments in the sort of in the body of the book where you could argue that she's just sort of reliving some of that stuff through her relationship with Jafar. She even says it in the book. She says that she's just traded one cage for another. Yes. Because part of his efforts to keep her safe include limiting her movement. And so as readers, we can see, okay, he loves her. He's felt strongly about her for a long period of time. He wants to keep her safe, but that's actually undermining her own will.
Yes.
And it's making her feel like she doesn't have a sense of freedom within her own life. And so...
Well, it's a man deciding what is best for her.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I really like the dynamic and the way that their story develops, where he gets sort of... He doesn't get less protective, but he becomes more comfortable in not feeling like that protectiveness needs to be such a sheltering experience. And then when, it all comes down to it, in the end, when he couldn't keep her safe, it turns out she didn't need him to at all. And the way he reacts when he's seen that, it might be a little late, but I think it's really important to show that actually, regardless of sort of how you've felt throughout here, you can always change. You can always see things from a different perspective and get in line with the new normal. And that's exactly what he does when he finds Jasmine in such a position of power and dominance, and she basically says to him, deal with this or fuck off. Can I say fuck?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Go for it. F words abound.
She's like, I love you, but I'm not actually going to put up with that shit. And if you want me, you're going to have to deal with this side of it, and you're going to have to deal with not being the most powerful person in this relationship in terms of their business dealings.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like you said, like, he totally bends a knee, and he does it like not begrudgingly at all.
He does it straight away. There's no hesitation.
He does it straight away. Yeah. Exactly. Like he acknowledges her power.
And he's almost overwhelmed by how powerful she is and how she's sort of come into her own, and she just owns that power in such a full and beautiful way. And I think it's a great scene. It's beautifully done.
I do too. Yeah. Do you want to talk about one more book? Or do you have time for that?
Yeah. So you haven't read Something Borrowed, which I will very quickly for the listeners highly recommend. It's femdom, but the exploration of masculinity in it is really interesting, particularly when it's coming from a French-Australian perspective, because Australians' relationship with masculinity, much like New Zealand's, is very much focused on that hardworking sort of outdoor post-colonial model. But since you have read Rafe, shall we talk about that?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. So Rafe is by Rebecca Weatherspoon. It's a brilliant book. It deals with Sloane, who is a surgeon, a divorced surgeon with 2 6-year-old twins that she needs help with. And Rafe is the male nanny that she hires to keep her household running and keep her kids cared for while she's working.
Well, and like, this is something that he has done for other families as well. This wasn't an accidental position he fell into. Like, he was thinking about moving away from nannying, but
yeah, he comes very, very highly recommended, and she sort of has to, earn the position of being the family he'll work for.
Mm-hmm. I really loved how, I mean, obviously, like, showing him as the primary caregiver in the household. Not that, like, nannying and mom, I don't like the way I worded that. But anyway, we're going to just proceed understanding that I didn't mean to be rude. Okay.
Employed in a child caring facility.
Yes. Yeah. So, obviously, it's really powerful to see a man fulfilling that role in this household.
But
and
it's
to see
interesting
her,
that it's so powerful to us because that speaks to our expectations, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, and then she's like this very powerful surgeon, and the strain, and then she's going through this terrible divorce with a controlling ex-husband, and like the strain of this job and not having a partner carrying the weight with her.
And twins, my God.
Oh my gosh.
Whew.
And now she, like, how am I trying to put this into words? There was something I heard where someone was like, work like you're not a parent, or work like you're not a mother, and mother like you don't have a job. And I felt
very familiar with that concept.
Right? And I felt like it was really appropriately represented in this book.
Yeah.
The strain of that cultural pressure on women.
And I think it would be very easy for us to say, this book challenges the concept of toxic masculinity by having the male main character in a childcare position, in a house care position as well, because he does a lot of the sort of preparing dinners and things like that. But it's actually much, much more than that. And the way that Rebecca Weatherspoon has written Rafe and written Sloane and their relationship together is really nuanced. And there's a very there's an excellent sort of dichotomy between a lot of Rafe's roles in terms of traditional masculinity, his interests, his passions, and the employment choices that he makes. And it's also an interracial romance. So Sloane is black, Rafe is white, her children and her ex-husband are black, and Rafe's father is white, with his stepmother being black and his half-sisters being obviously the product of his stepmom and his father. So there's a lot more there than just the traditional gender roles to unpack.
Yes.
And it's very beautifully done. And I think one of the things that really makes it stand out in the way it deconstructs toxic masculinity is Rafe's confidence in himself.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. He's a lot younger than Sloane. Well, he's not a lot younger than Sloane.
But he is younger than Sloane.
He is younger.
Yeah.
And she mentions the fact that he's younger more than once. And she's at a point where she feels like she should have a certain amount together, and he's at a point where he actually does in his life. He's he's thinking about changing employment and everything like that, but in terms of his core values, the sort of relationships he has, everything like that, he's very confident, and he's very much sort of established himself in a healthy way. And a lot of the conversations, a lot of the scenes that we see between him and his father really highlight the fact that he grew up with a lot of very, sort of common conceptions around masculinity, and it's through his life experience that he's become so assured in still having a lot of traditional masculine qualities that we would expect, but not in letting those fall over the toxic boundary.
I also loved how like so we have Rafe as this great example of, like you said, he has these traditional masculinity concepts without crossing into toxic, while we have the ex-husband who very much sits very comfortably in the toxic arena, right?
Yeah, like he's actually waiting for Sloane to fail so that he can swoop in and like take her back and sort of save her from herself.
And continue to control her.
Yeah.
And so, and then also like the way he is threatened by Rafe immediately. It's just this concept of territory and a woman being able to be territory. Ooh, and that regardless of what his behavior has been in their past, she should always forgive him because she's his.
Yes.
And
the fact that he like draws their children into that as well. Like, is there anything more
I could have killed him.
Yeah.
Oh, I could have killed him.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I loved that book. That one was so good.
And I think what we're seeing more and more in a lot of these texts that we've mentioned here today, but also in a lot of other books that are coming out, that's really, really pleasing to see, is we're seeing a lot more examples and scenes of men talking to each other, of them communicating healthily in a way that, it doesn't always have a specific outcome, but even just seeing that representation of,
I love that.
Men talking to each other, helping each other solve their problems, being a sounding board, encouraging one another, all of those things, because so much of what makes or what turns masculinity into toxic masculinity is that idea around stoicism.
Yes, absolutely. Preach. Oh my God. That that you can't be emotionally vulnerable to anyone.
Yeah, and if you do, it somehow diminishes your masculinity.
Yeah.
And we see it in the language that men use with each other. We see it in the phrases that have become commonplace, and we see it in just their absolute refusal in so many forms, both in real life and in fiction, to just not communicate. And so to see that level of communication being embraced by the genre and being promoted by the genre, I think it's really obviously helpful for everyone who reads it to just remind them that actually being a man doesn't negate your sort of voice box. It doesn't mean that silence is your only option.
Well, and then also in the past, I remember probably 15, 20 years ago, reading romance How old am I? Yeah, that still lines up. God help me. Reading romance, and a lot of times the like wake up moment for the hero was like one of his friends picking a fight to like, oh well, if you're not dating her, I'll date her then, right?
Yeah.
And then through anger he was able to realize like, oh, I do want her back, but the friend knew it all the whole time, you know what I mean? Like this very like trying to have a workaround.
And that's what sort of like it does. It highlights that people feel like the only way that men can truly express their emotions is through anger.
Well, and then like to negate anger as an emotion, like anger is an emotion. One of my favorite. I used to work at an auto parts store, and so I worked with a lot of men, and. One of my favorite moments was like one of my friends was like complaining to me, and I'm like, God, men are so emotional. And he like looked at me. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I mean, I don't know what you think anger is, but you're feeling a big feeling right now. And like he realized like, oh, I am being super hyper about this, aren't I? But like it was turning that language around on him that got him there. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. Because you're right, we've negated anger as an emotion socially because it's acceptable for men. But when we see women express it,
oh my gosh, we're hysterical, aren't we? Just
we're hysterical and we're unlikable as well.
And we're just trying to be everyone's mom.
Yeah,
you know, I don't need mothering. Yeah, like. Excuse me, I didn't want to be your mom anyway. And if I was, you'd probably be better than you are. Like, jeez.
Well, we both have sons, so we'll have to see how that works out for us long term.
I mean, I want the world to be a better place for them, but I definitely want them to have a lot of equipment to live in it in a nice way, you know? To like find enjoyment in it. Everything.
And when we look at the equipment that we're like ascribing to men, even in the romance genre, you know, you hear a lot of people talking about, oh, I hate the miscommunication trope. Oh, they could just work it out if they just sat down together and talked about it. How many bloody relationships have you been in where a miscommunication has caused a massive fight?
Yeah, you know? That's where most of our fights have come from.
Yeah, they are common in romantic relationships because people don't feel comfortable or happy expressing themselves for fear of how their emotional reaction might be taken or might be rejected. It's like,
well, and like, we all are our own narrators, right? Yes. And so when, you know, when Andrew does something, I am perceiving it through my eyes, right? So, like, let's say I make a comment. Okay, for the sake of argument, we're going here. So, let's say I make a comment about how I haven't been feeling very pretty or something along those lines. And his response is, oh, that's too bad, right? Like, he's not being supportive, but he's also not telling me I'm pretty. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so, like, I can internalize that and I can feel like he also has not been seeing me as very pretty, when in reality, he just cares that I feel bad, right? Like, he doesn't mean anything about it, but like, that is a miscommunication that does exist because we have two different stories going in our heads.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things in being in any relationship, but particularly a romantic relationship, is learning to communicate effectively. And and so it makes sense that we would see that in the genre, in the books that we read about romantic relationships, where that's at the core of the story, because it's learning each other, it's learning how the other one communicates, and it's learning the lens through which they see the world. And to be perfectly honest, it takes years. The fact that we can condense it down in a realistic format for like an 80,000 word book is extremely impressive. Kudos to us.
And And yeah, and it's still enjoyable to read. It's not just, you know, a breakneck communication like list. Like, yeah, no.
Here are the last
Good
47 transgressions where you have not understood me correctly.
What was that?
It's like when you sit down with the list and you're like, here's the last 47 transgressions where you have not understood me correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody's reading that book.
That just reminds me of Hamilton, though. Here's a list of like 30 years of disagreements, sweet Jesus. Anyway,
Yeah.
I listened to it a couple times. So, well, Courtney, I know that you have to head out. Do you want to? Is there anything else you want to share with listener? On the subject of toxic masculinity, you do not have to. But I just want to make sure that if you had a thought that you really wanted to throw in there, you got an opportunity to do that.
I just think that everyone needs to have these conversations, whether it's with the men in your life, the women in your life, the non-binary people in your life, about how we address stereotypes around all kinds of gender ideals and how we can make sure that we're all supporting each other to be the best versions of ourselves. And if you would like to read any romance novels where therapy and guys talking to each other and communicating effectively takes place, then I strongly recommend my Pacific Passion series as well. Woo! Because I've made a real point to address that within the South Pacific context.
I love that. I'll talk to you afterwards, but I'm definitely going to be picking up your books.
Pimp myself out
so
there.
Yeah, you should. You absolutely should. I also address like toxic masculinity and therapy, but the books aren't out yet. But anyway, so I really love that you do.
They will be, and we will all read them. Hooray.
I know, I'm so excited. So we like to end the podcast with a piece of writing advice. You don't have to. I won't hold you accountable or any. Like you're not going to be stuck here until you tell me something. But if you have something
on me too, I would have prepped something.
I'm
so
sorry because I'm like the worst at remembering to tell people that. So, do you want me to go first?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I would say be bold with your writing. Like if there is something that you see in the world that needs to be addressed, like use the tool in front of you and take part in that conversation.
That's a brilliant piece because it's not just applicable to novels either. You know,
no.
You can write to politicians, you can write to leaders,
absolutely.
You can write to organizations.
Love that.
Yeah, make the change.
You made it better.
You can try to make the change.
Hell, you can tweet it, dude. Like,
I freak
yell it into the void.
That's why
I'm terrible at that.
Why
the racists hate me. Do you want that to be your piece of advice, or do you have something else?
I'm going to go with a classic, but I think it follows on nicely from yours. So mine is from Jodi Picoult, and it's the one piece that I always come back to when I'm struggling, and it's you can't edit a blank page.
Mm-hmm.
So particularly if we're following on from you and the way in which, you know, you can let sort of the change that you want to see drive your writing in any format, get it out. Just get it all out of you, and you can make it better when it's out, but it needs to be in the world.
Yes. All right, Courtney, where can they find you?
You can find me at my website, CourtneyClarkMicheals.com. I'm on Facebook.
Which is very pretty.
Oh, thanks. My friend Celia designed it.
It's beautiful. She did a great job with the color coordination and everything.
I'm very proud of her.
Aww.
I mean, like, it is her actual job. I didn't do it as a favor, but no, she's fantastic. I'm on Instagram at Courtney Clark Micheals _author. I'm on Twitter at C_Clark Micheals. And I'm on Facebook as well as I'm fresh on TikTok. So you can find me there and enjoy all of the high quality I have to offer in that format as well.
Yeah, mine's real quality too. So.
Yeah. Like so many of me just in my dressing gown. Do you have that? Robe, in my robe. Yeah.
It was funny. I did one and I was like, Kate, can you tell that I'm in my bathrobe? And she's like, no, I had no idea. I'm like, okay, then it's going up. So.
Oh yeah, no, mine, like, you can see my robe in there. There's no hiding it.
So listener, you can find me at martyv.com. You can sign up for my cute little newsletter there. And you can find me at TikTok. Shoot. Okay. All the thoughts. TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at MartyVAuthor. I also just started a reader page, which is V is for romance. That's VEE is for romance on Facebook. And it's just me talking to myself right now. But if you want to join in the conversation, I would love to see you there. So.
Oh, join mine too. Mine's called Courtney Clark Micheals Textual Relations.
Is that at Facebook as well?
Yes, it is. You can get there by my author page, Courtney Clark Micheals.
All right. Well, I'm gonna join. I'll see you in a little bit.
I'm gonna join yours. We'll shout to avoid at each other.
I love it. You know how I feel about the sound of your voice, so.
The school one for the New Zealand accent. It's the only.
That's
school.
right. Oh man. Oh no. I have lots of thoughts. I think New Zealand seems like a really great place. So.
Come visit. Our borders are open.
I would love to. Oh. I don't think I'm ready for that. But anyway. A plane ride and all that. Ooh, I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, that would be tricky.
Right. But listener, thank you so much for being here. We think you're the best, and we hope that you are also thinking about how romance affects toxic masculinity and is part of that conversation. Bye, listener. Bye.
Bye.